What are graceful Columbina's biggest pros and cons? That's what I'm here to tell you today. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. So, the main reason that you would be pulling for this lovely lunar goddess is that she is the best available lunar DPS buffer. So that means that if you're a Flynn's main, or if you're a Nafer main, then you're going to want to pull for Columbina. Now, something that I'm going to talk about a little bit more later is that you would rather get those characters' respective best-in-slot dedicated supports over Columbina. However, if you already have that piece of the puzzle, then Columbina is going to be the next best thing that you can get them, and it's going to complete the full lunar DPS premium team for both of the lunar DPSs. With Flynn's, you're finally going to have the complete setup of himself, Columbina, Sucrose, and then Inefa, and then with Nafer, you're going to have the full Lunar Bloom team. If you've invested a lot into the Not Cry characters up until this point, then Columbina is going to be a great pull for you. Now, I should say, if you pulled for Durin and only Durin, then this doesn't apply to you. You are specifically pulling Columbina for Flynn's or Nafer. Those are the two DPSs that are going to be able to utilize her best, and Durin honestly isn't really going to have that much to do with her. However, for the lunar DPSs, she is going to be a great investment. And for Jabai, another lunar DPS character that's going to be coming out within Columbina's release version, she is also going to be a good partner for her too. So all around, if you're interested in investing into lunar characters, Columbina is always going to be the most universal support available for lunar DPS characters. It's likely that they're not done with lunar DPS characters yet, and we're likely to get some more later, as proven by Jabai. So if you already have some lunar DPSs and you're interested in investing into more lunar DPSs in the future, well then Columbina is naturally going to be an excellent pickup for you. But if you main any particular lunar character at the minute, then Columbina is going to be a worthwhile choice for you. Another thing that I should add is that while she is mostly geared towards 6.0 teams, this doesn't mean that she's only able to play in 6.0 teams. She is actually able to form a core with Inefa and play with other characters. She's able to wheelchair characters like Raiden Shogun or Hu Tao, for instance. So you can actually play her as a flexible team core in many different types of teams and just kind of stick her on the end of anywhere and have her do pretty well. It is the classic wheelchair setup. So if you were worried that she's basically only going to work with 6.x teams, if you have Inefa, that's not the case. You are going to be able to use her in other places, and it is going to be a pretty good team core. Now, I will say, you do want Inefa for that, and if you don't have Inefa, then you're probably just going to be playing her with lunar DPSs, and chances are, if you do have a robot, then there's a high chance that you're probably a Flynn's main that is already pulling Columbina for Flynn's in the first place. However, Inefa is also just a generally good unit, so if you happen to pull for her just for her own kit, well, then you're in luck. Columbina is unironically going to be able to provide you with a solid team core across your account. Another thing that I should add is that this means that she's at least going to be able to somewhat extend her lifespan beyond 6.x. I can understand a key concern being that she's kind of going to be a dead unit once a new meta comes along, and while I will say she is definitely on the more restrictive side, at least in terms of Archons, at least this core is going to be able to provide her a way to play in teams beyond the scope of complete 6.x teams. And while this does still require another 6.x 5-star in order to operate, at least it means that she's not going to be completely limited to just one archetype. This is not too dissimilar to how Nahida mostly works within Sumeru teams. However, the difference is that Columbina mostly works in premium setup, and she doesn't really have a lot of free-to-play team options. But at least through these means, you can apply her in other places. Another thing that I should mention is that she's going to be able to be her own main DPS, and it's actually going to be good. It's not going to be as good as simply adding her to a team with Flynn's or Nafer and playing them as a main DPS, and I don't believe it's going to be as good as Jabai either. However, if you simply want to on-field Columbina because you're a big fan of her, then it's going to be a real thing provided that you have Lauma. So, you do have other options than simply playing her as a lunar DPS support. You have two other avenues that you can go down, one of them being extending her reach by using Inefa, and the other avenue being this, playing her as a main DPS. I do believe that she is going to be a decent DPS, but I am honestly doubtful that we're going to get anything on the levels of Moika. I don't really think this is going to be the same situation as that. Now, do I think she'll be a good DPS? Absolutely, but I don't necessarily think that she is going to be one of the bestest DPSs ever. But I do think that she is going to be good. So if this is a way that you're interested in playing her, it is something that you can do. Just keep in mind that you want to pull for Lauma first. And this is the thing with Columbina. She is inevitably always going to be tied to 6.x characters. Even if you want to play her a bit more flexibly, you do still want Inefa, who, yes, okay, isn't a 6.x character, she technically released in 5.8, but you get the point. you're ultimately going to be playing her with Not Cry characters. This unit is pure Not Cry investment. Even if you're intending to play her as a main DPS, you're still ultimately going to need to invest into Not Cry characters, and this is something that this character has as somewhat of an integral flaw. She is just not budget friendly, like, at all. Basically, all of her potential teams are very premium 5-star dependent. Flynn's teams, Nafer teams, her own DPS team requires Lauma, and Jabai is another 5-star. Unfortunately, this is an Archon where you can't really just slide her wherever you want. You have to be pulling her with very specific intent and purpose. She is an awesome character, she has been given a lot of attention, but her kit definitely feels like it's more on the restrictive side. And I will say we did see this somewhat with Moika, but she still had her sub-DPS mode, and she was still generally able to be used as a pyro applicator basically anywhere. Whereas Columbina is undeniably the most restrictive Archon we have ever gotten. I understand that she's not an Archon, but you know what I mean. So, ultimately, you're only going for this character if you're interested in Not Cry investment. There is basically no other reason for you to pull this character. This is probably the most skippable Archon meta-wise that we have ever gotten if you have not really invested into Not Cry teams. Now, if you have invested into Not Cry teams, obviously she's a good pickup, but if you haven't, well, then she is ultimately very skippable, especially if Durin is the only Not Cry unit you've picked up so far, and you're intending to invest into future Hex and Zirkel characters, which is an entirely different archetype to Lunar characters. Unironically, for some people, Durin is a better account investment than Columbina, and to be fair, I kind of knew that this was going to happen. I was kind of aware that, okay, I believe that Columbina is going to be very Lunar focused, but she did definitely end up being quite restrictive, so she's not budget friendly. If you're wondering, is she a good pickup if I'm new? Gonna be honest, no. If you installed the game for her and you're new, you have lots of Primo Gems to collect on the map, I would recommend either get Inefa as well during her banner run, or get Jabai in the second half. Ultimately, I would recommend that you get at least one character that is able to utilize her if you're really interested in using Columbina. And if you're somebody that's been playing for a long time, and you're kind of on the fence about getting this character, to be honest, I would say she's quite skippable unless you definitely want to invest more into your Not Cry teams. And that's another thing that I want to talk about. She's not even essential to the Not Cry characters. If you don't have Columbina or Inefa and you main Flynn's, you would rather get Inefa. She is more essential to Flynn's than Columbina is. Same case with Nafer. You would rather get Lauma than Columbina. Now, I will say that with Flynn's mains, Inefa is rerunning now, so ultimately they're the ones that are going to have to make the decision, and Nafer mains at least are going to be able to get Columbina now and just get Lauma later. But ultimately, if you would rather save, you can do that too. You don't really have to pull for Columbina even if you're a Lunar main. She is going to be an upgrade, and she will complete the full premium team like I said, but you would honestly rather get the specific teammate that was designed to be used with a specific DPS, as opposed to getting the more versatile Lunar investment. Now, don't mistake this for me saying that Columbina is low value. She is going to be pushing these Lunar characters to new heights. Units like Flynn's may end up being the best DPS in the game after this patch goes live, so she is not a weak character, and she is by no means bad in the meta. She is going to be a meta character because the current meta revolves around Lunar characters, but just know that she is really specific and that she's not even that essential if all you're looking for is just decent performance and being able to clear. These characters are plenty strong on their own already, especially Flynn's. So while these characters do appreciate Columbina a lot, and I am not trying to undersell her strength here, she is definitely going to push the ceiling for these characters, I wouldn't really say that she is an essential. She's not really required. This isn't really the type of situation where you're going to feel like these characters are severely gimped if you don't pull for the Archon. I think she is actually passable if you're not interested for once. And while she will be good, and she is going to give these characters our best installed teams, you don't have to feel pressured into getting her is what I'm getting at. Essentially, get the special teammates first. She is more appealing though if you have multiple Lunar DPSs on your account, simply because she is a pretty versatile Lunar investment. Anytime they make a Lunar DPS, Columbina is going to be good with them, and ultimately that is where her value lies. She is the best within her specific archetype, and if you're interested in that archetype, she is a good pull, but she is indeed very niche, and that is something else that I'm honing in on here. She is so niche, and that's fine, I guess. I mean, usually you would expect an Archon to be a little bit more flexible than this. I kind of knew that they were going to do this simply because Genshin has been going in this direction for a while now. I would say ever since Skirk and Escoffier. They've been making plenty of limited 5-stars that do want other limited 5-stars in order to feel like they're at their top potential. And they basically did the same thing, but with the Archon instead this time. Now, the silver lining is that at least it can be any Not Cry character outside of Durin who isn't a Lunar character. So if you've shown even remote interest in any of the 6.x characters and pulled for any one of them, aside from Durin, then you should be fine, you should be able to use Columbina. But ultimately, it's not really you needing to pull Columbina to make your Not Cry characters good, it's kind of the other way around. And while I will say that Columbina is still a great pull for these specific characters, I do not want to make her sound like she is underwhelming or bad for these characters, because she's not. She is an amazing investment for them. I don't think that she is a necessity, and whether you get her or not just depends on how much you want to commit to Not Cry characters in particular. If she's your favorite and you absolutely love her, don't worry, she's not weak. I'm just saying she's very specific, and if you're not a fan of that, you can pass on her, and I wouldn't be worried about it. Hopefully this video is able to tell you Columbina's biggest pros and cons. This has been Juice, signing out, and may the moon bless your Columbina polls.